The silent cry. The grand chamber of the Galactic Federation fell silent as the holographic display flickered to life. Dozens of species from across the known galaxy watched in growing horror as star system after star system appeared on the screen, each one marked with the same terrible symbol, a red void where thriving colonies once existed. Ambassador Kelvar of the Karanian Republic stood at the center of the chamber, his 6 arms trembling as he manipulated the controls. The normally composed diplomat's blue skin had turned pale, and his voice cracked as he spoke to the assembled representatives. Honored delegates, what you see before you represents the greatest crisis our Federation has ever faced. In the past 5 weeks, 17 star systems in the Outer Rim have gone completely silent, not destroyed, not conquered, simply empty. A murmur of fear rippled through the chamber. The Valdorian representative, a tall being with crystalline features, stood up from her seat. Her species was known for their calm wisdom, but today even she seemed shaken. Ambassador Kelvar, surely our long-range sensors have detected some explanation. Entire civilizations do not simply vanish without trace. Kelvar's primary arms gestured helplessly, while his secondary ones continued working the controls. That is precisely what makes this crisis so terrifying, Counselor Jara. Our most advanced sensors show no signs of battle, no debris fields, no energy signatures of typical weapons. The colonies, the orbital stations, the mining facilities, all intact, all functional, all completely devoid of life. The chamber erupted in worried conversations as delegates spoke in hushed tones with their aides. The Zephyrian colonies had been particularly prosperous, their crystal-based technology providing clean energy to dozens of worlds. The mining operations in the Kepler belt supplied rare metals essential for faster-than-light travel. The loss of these systems was not just a humanitarian disaster, it threatened the economic stability of the entire Federation. General Voss of the Andromedian Defense Corps stepped forward, his massive frame casting a shadow across the chamber floor. His species had evolved on high-gravity worlds, making them natural warriors and the backbone of Federation military forces. What about our rescue fleets? The Andromedian 7th Fleet was dispatched to investigate the Zephyrian colonies 3 weeks ago. Surely they have reported back by now. The silence that followed was answer enough. Kelvar's expression grew even more grave as he manipulated the display, showing the last known position of the Andromedian vessels. The 7th Fleet entered the Zephyr system 12 days ago. We received one brief transmission, investigating energy anomaly near the primary colony. All appears normal on surface scans. That was the last we heard from Admiral Kresh or any of his ships. General Voss stepped back as if physically struck. The 7th Fleet consisted of over 200 vessels, including the mighty dreadnought Starbreaker. If such a force could vanish without a trace, what hope did any of them have? From the back of the chamber, a weak signal crackled through the communication system. The voice that emerged was barely audible, filled with static and what sounded like desperate fear. This is Crystal Bearer Nim of the Zephyrian Deep Mining Station. If anyone can hear this, please, stay away from our systems. They come in the darkness between thoughts. They take not your body, but your very essence. The silence spreads and we cannot. The transmission cut to harsh static, then nothing. The chamber remained frozen in horrified silence for long moments. Finally, Counselor Jara spoke, her crystalline voice resonating with barely contained panic. The silence, what could that mean? And how do we fight an enemy we cannot see or understand? It was then that Ambassador Kelvar did something that shocked every delegate present. He activated a restricted communication channel, one that had not been used in over 50 years. The warning beacons around Sol system had been placed there for good reason. The inhabitants of the 3rd planet were considered too dangerous for contact with civilized society. Honored delegates, I am about to commit an act that may be considered treason by some of you, but desperate times call for desperate measures. The chamber erupted in protests, but Kelvar continued despite the chaos. His message was simple and direct, transmitted on all human communication frequencies. This is Ambassador Kelvar of the Galactic Federation to the government of Earth. We require immediate assistance with a humanitarian crisis. Unknown forces have eliminated 17 of our star systems. We formally request military aid. On Luna Station, orbiting Earth's moon, Ambassador David Chen nearly dropped his morning coffee as the priority alert klaxon sounded throughout the facility. As Earth's only official liaison with the galactic community, Chen had been monitoring Federation communications for decades, but they had never directly contacted him before. Chen was a career diplomat in his 50s, with graying hair and sharp eyes that had seen humanity grow from a single planet species to masters of their local star group. He activated the communication array and responded immediately. Federation Ambassador, this is David Chen, representing Earth's Diplomatic Corps. We have been monitoring your crisis through passive sensors. What exactly are you asking of us? The relief in Kelvar's voice was obvious even across the vast distance. Ambassador Chen, we need your military forces. Our strongest fleets have vanished without firing a shot. Whatever is happening in the Outer Rim appears to be beyond our ability to comprehend or combat. Chen paused, considering the implications. For 50 years, the Federation had maintained strict quarantine protocols around Sol system, declaring humans too violent and unpredictable for galactic society. Now they were asking for the very military might they had feared. I will need to consult with our leadership, but I believe I can promise you a response within hours, not days or weeks. Within minutes of ending the transmission, Chen was on a priority channel to the Terran Defense Command on Mars. Admiral Sarah Kane, commander of humanity's space forces, listened to his report without interruption. At 45, Kane was a veteran of the Titan Rebellion and the architect of humanity's current fleet doctrine. David, tell me straight, how bad is this crisis? Sarah, they've lost contact with 17 star systems and their most powerful fleet. The enemy, whatever it is, leaves no trace behind. Just empty colonies and silent space. Kane was quiet for a moment, staring out the viewport of her orbital office at the red surface of Mars below. Unlike the peaceful worlds of the Federation, Mars was a constant reminder of humanity's ability to adapt and survive in hostile environments. How many civilians are we talking about? Preliminary estimates suggest over 50 million beings across all the affected systems. And the Federation is willing to lift their quarantine restrictions? Chen nodded, even though Kane couldn't see him. They're desperate, Sarah. Whatever pride or fear kept them from contacting us before, it's gone now. Kane activated her command console, bringing up fleet deployment status across human space. The Terran Defense Force was smaller than most Federation navies, but it was built for a different kind of warfare. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic had been developed by a species that fought for survival on a world where everything tried to kill them. I'm assembling Task Force Phoenix, Kane decided. We'll take the Prometheus, the Defiant, the Aurora, and the Wolverine plus support vessels. That gives us our best mix of firepower, speed, and adaptability. What about crew selection? Kane smiled grimly. This is exactly what we've been training for, David. Every simulation, every war game, every tactical exercise has prepared us for the unknown. We'll take volunteers only, people who understand they might not be coming home. The call for volunteers went out across human space within the hour. The response was overwhelming. Captain Rex Torres, commanding the Wolverine's Marine contingent, had to turn away 3 times as many applicants as he could accept. Dr. Maya Patel, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, found herself coordinating with specialists from every major university on Earth and Mars. Within 18 hours, Task Force Phoenix was assembled at the edge of Sol system. The 4 main vessels represented the best of human military engineering. Not the largest ships in the galaxy, but designed for maximum flexibility and effectiveness. The Prometheus served as the flagship, its hull bristling with experimental weapons and sensor arrays. The Defiant was built for speed and stealth, capable of outrunning almost anything in space. The Aurora carried the most advanced medical and scientific equipment humanity had ever put in space. The Wolverine was a pure fighting ship, designed to get Marines where they needed to go and keep them alive long enough to do their job. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, looking out at the stars that had called to humanity for generations. Behind her, the bridge crew ran through final system checks with the calm efficiency that came from years of training and preparation. "Admiral," her communications officer called. "We're receiving another transmission from Ambassador Chen on Luna. Put him through." Chen's face appeared on the main screen, and Kane could see the weight of responsibility in his expression. "Sarah, I've just received word from the Federation. They're willing to grant us full military authority in the affected regions. No restrictions, no observers, no political oversight." Kane nodded slowly. In 50 years of isolation, humanity had often wondered what it would take for the galactic community to accept them as equals. The answer, apparently, was a crisis so terrible that even the fear of human violence paled in comparison. "Any updates on the nature of the threat?" "Nothing concrete. The Federation's best scientists are baffled. They've never encountered anything like this before." "Then we go in blind," Kane decided. "It won't be the first time." Dr. Patel stepped forward from her position at the science station. As the daughter of immigrants from old Earth's Indian subcontinent, she represented the diversity and determination that had carried humans to the stars. "Admiral, I've been analyzing all available data on the disappearances. There's something unusual about the pattern of affected systems." Kane turned to give her full attention. Patel was brilliant, and her insights had proven invaluable in first contact situations. "What have you found?" "The systems that went silent first were the most isolated ones, furthest from major trade routes or military installations. But they were also the most prosperous, rich in resources or strategic value. It's almost as if something was deliberately targeting the Federation's most valuable assets while avoiding areas with strong defenses." Captain Torres, a stocky man with scars across his knuckles from his early days in the corporate wars on Earth, spoke up from the tactical station. "That suggests intelligence, not just some random natural phenomenon. Whatever we're dealing with, it can think and plan." Kane processed this information, feeling the familiar calm that came before battle. Throughout human history, when faced with intelligent enemies, the key had always been to outthink and outadapt them. "All right, people. We go in assuming we're facing something that can think, plan, and adapt. That means we stay flexible, we watch each other's backs, and we don't follow any predictable patterns." The final preparations took another 6 hours. Families said goodbyes over video links, knowing this might be the last time they saw their loved ones. Engineers made last-minute adjustments to weapon systems that had never been tested in actual combat. Medical teams prepared for casualties they hoped would never come. As the fleet prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Kane received one final message from Earth. It was brief, transmitted on official channels from the Terran Council itself. "The thoughts and prayers of all humanity go with you. Bring our galactic neighbors home safely. All ships report ready for jump," announced the navigation officer. Kane looked around the bridge one last time, seeing the faces of men and women who had volunteered to risk everything for people they had never met, from species they had barely heard of. It was, she reflected, perhaps the most human thing they could do. "Task Force Phoenix, this is Admiral Kane. Today we leave the safety of our home system to face an unknown enemy in defense of innocent lives. We go not as conquerors or saviors, but as neighbors answering a call for help. Whatever we find out there, remember that we carry with us the hopes of every peaceful being in the galaxy." She paused, then gave the order that would change human history forever. "All ships, jump." The 4 vessels and their support craft vanished into hyperspace, racing toward the outer rim, and a confrontation that would test everything humanity had learned about survival, sacrifice, and the bonds that unite all intelligent life against the darkness between the stars. Into the Void Task Force Phoenix dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyr system, and what they found defied every expectation. Admiral Kane stared at the tactical display in stunned silence, trying to process what her sensors were telling her. The system looked perfectly normal. 3 planets orbited a golden star, their surfaces showing the geometric patterns of Zephyrian crystal cities gleaming in the sunlight. Orbital stations hung in space like delicate jewelry, their solar collectors still turning to track the sun's movement. Mining platforms in the asteroid belt continued their automated operations, robotic arms harvesting precious metals with mechanical precision. Everything appeared exactly as it should be, except for one impossible detail. There were no life signs anywhere in the system. Dr. Maya Patel leaned over her sensor console, her dark eyes reflecting the glow of dozens of readouts. Admiral, this doesn't make sense. All the infrastructure is intact and functional, but our bioscanners show 0 organic signatures across the entire system. Captain Rex Torres moved closer to the tactical display, his weathered face creased with concentration. What about the Andromedian fleet? Any sign of Admiral Kresh's ships? The navigation officer spoke up from his station. Sir, we're detecting several large metallic objects in orbit around the third planet. Configuration matches Andromedian Dreadnought-class vessels. Kane felt a chill run down her spine. Are they responding to communications? Negative, Admiral. All frequencies silent. Take us in for a closer look, but keep our distance. Whatever happened here, I don't want us walking into the same trap. As the Prometheus led the human fleet deeper into the system, more details became apparent on their sensors. The Andromedian ships were there, all right. Nearly 200 vessels floating, in perfect formation as if they had simply stopped in the middle of a routine patrol. But like everything else in the system, they showed no signs of life. Dr. Patel suddenly straightened at her console, her voice tight with excitement and fear. Admiral, I'm picking up something unusual from the surface of the second planet. It's very faint, but there's definitely some kind of energy signature coming from the underground cavern systems. Kane moved to stand behind her. Energy signature? What kind? I'm not sure. It's unlike anything in our databases, but there's something familiar about the pattern. It almost looks like neural activity. Before Kane could respond, a weak transmission crackled through their communications array. The voice was barely audible, speaking in the harmonic tones of the Zephyrian language, but Dr. Patel's translation software quickly converted it to human speech. Please. If anyone can hear this, we are hiding in the deep crystal caves. The silence came during the night cycle, and we felt our thoughts being pulled away. Most of our people simply stopped. They walk, but do not speak. Work, but do not think. We few who remain are protected by the resonance crystals, but we grow weaker. Kane grabbed the communications microphone immediately. This is Admiral Sarah Kane of the Terran Defense Force. We are here to help you. Can you give us your exact location? There was a pause, then the voice returned, filled with desperate hope. Terran? The warm bloods from the quarantine system? How did you... It does not matter. We are in the Harmony Caverns beneath New Resonance City, but be careful. The silence spreads to any mind it touches. Our own people hunt us now, though they do not know why. Dr. Patel was already analyzing the planetary data. Admiral, I can pinpoint their location. The Harmony Caverns are about 12 kilometers below the surface, naturally occurring crystal formations that the Zephyrians use for meditation and communication. Captain Torres stepped forward. Admiral, request permission to take a Marine landing party down there. If there are survivors, we need to get them out. Kane considered this carefully. Every instinct told her they were walking into something beyond their understanding, but 50 million lives hung in the balance. Permission granted, Captain, but you take full environmental suits and maintain constant communication. At the first sign of trouble, you get out of there. As Torres prepared his team, Dr. Patel continued her analysis of the strange energy patterns. What she found made her blood run cold. Admiral, I think I know what we're dealing with. These energy signatures, and they're not just neural activity. They're consciousness itself somehow extracted and stored. Whatever hit this system isn't killing people in the traditional sense. It's harvesting their minds. The implications hit Kane like a physical blow. An enemy that could steal consciousness itself was beyond anything humanity had ever faced. But as she looked around the bridge at her crew, she saw the same determination that had carried their species from the caves of Earth to the stars. If it can be harvested, it can be returned, she said firmly. We just need to figure out how. On the surface of the second planet, Torres and his 12-person Marine team descended through the empty, streets of New Resonance City. The Zephyrian architecture was beautiful even in abandonment. Crystal spires that caught and reflected light in perfect harmony. Walkways that seemed to float in mid-air supported by harmonic resonance. But the silence was absolute and terrifying. No birds sang, no insects buzzed, no footsteps echoed through the streets. The city that had once housed 3 million Zephyrians now stood as empty as a tomb. Motion detected, reported Sergeant Lisa Chang, the team's scout. 12 o'clock, approximately 200 meters. Torres raised his binoculars and felt his stomach turn. A group of Zephyrians was walking through the street in perfect single file, their normally shimmering crystal skin now dull and gray. They moved with mechanical precision, showing no awareness of their surroundings or each other. "They're like sleepwalkers," whispered Corporal James Wu. "What could do that to someone?" "Stay focused," Torres ordered. "We have a job to do." The team made their way through the city streets, avoiding the walking shells of the Zephyrian population. Twice they had to duck into buildings as larger groups passed by, always moving in the same eerily coordinated patterns. The entrance to the Harmony Caverns was hidden beneath the city's central plaza, access through what had once been a beautiful park filled with singing crystals. Now the crystals were silent, their light dim and flickering. 12 kilometers below the surface, the caves were a wonderland of natural crystal formations that resonated with different harmonic frequencies. In the deepest chamber they found the survivors, 43 Zephyrians huddled together around a massive crystal formation that pulsed with protective energy. The Zephyrian who had sent the transmission introduced himself as Resonance Keeper, Vel. His species communicated partially through color changes in their crystal skin, and even through the environmental suits. Torres could see the fear and hope warring in his expression. "You truly came," Vel said, his harmonic voice carrying wonder. "We thought all the galaxy had fallen to the silence." "Not all," Torres replied. "We're going to get you out of here. But first I need to understand what we're fighting." Vel's skin shifted to darker hues as he spoke. They came without warning in the space between heartbeats. We felt a presence touching our minds, gentle at first like a whisper of sleep. But then it began to pull, drawing out our thoughts, our memories, our very essence. Most of our people simply stopped being themselves. Their bodies remained, but the spark that made them individuals was gone. Dr. Patel, monitoring from orbit, analyzed the data being transmitted from the caves. "Captain Torres, I'm reading massive electromagnetic disturbances throughout the system. It's like something is using the planet's magnetic field as a transmission medium." That's when they felt it. A subtle pressure at the edges of consciousness, like something trying to peer into their thoughts. Several Marines stumbled, touching their helmets in confusion. "Everyone stay close to the crystals," Torres ordered. "Something's trying to get inside our heads." The pressure increased, and Torres realized with growing horror that whatever had taken the Zephyrians was still here, still active. It was probing their minds, testing their defenses. But something unexpected happened. The entity encountered the chaotic, violent, survival-focused mentality that came from evolving on Earth, and it recoiled. Human consciousness, shaped by millennia of fighting for survival on a world where everything tried to kill them, was like touching a live wire for a creature used to the peaceful, ordered minds of Federation species. "Torres to Admiral Kane," he called through his communicator. "I think we just found our advantage. Whatever this thing is, it doesn't like human minds." Back on the Prometheus, Kane was coordinating with Dr. Patel when the revelation came through. "Of course," the xenobiologist breathed. "We evolved on a Deathworld. Our neural patterns are completely different from species that developed on peaceful planets. We're naturally resistant to mental intrusion." Kane saw the tactical advantage immediately. "Can we use that resistance offensively?" "I think so. If I can modify our communication arrays to broadcast human neural patterns, we might be able to disrupt whatever network this entity is using to control its victims." The plan came together quickly. While Torres extracted the Zephyrian survivors, Dr. Patel worked with the fleet's engineers to modify their most powerful transmitters. Instead of sending radio waves or subspace messages, They would broadcast the raw, chaotic neural activity of human minds, the survivor's instinct that had carried them through ice ages, plagues, and countless wars. The effect was immediate and dramatic. As the modified signal propagated through the system, the empty Zephyrian cities suddenly filled with confused voices. The walking shells of the population stopped their mechanical movements and looked around in bewilderment as their consciousness was restored. But the entity, whatever it was, did not give up easily. The electromagnetic disturbances intensified, and for the first time the humans got a glimpse of their true enemy. It wasn't a species in any traditional sense, but a collective of energy-based beings that fed on consciousness itself. They had been moving through the galaxy for eons, consuming the thoughts and memories of entire civilizations. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. It wasn't fought with energy weapons or missiles, but with pure force of will. The human fleet became a beacon of chaotic, survival-focused consciousness, burning like a signal fire in the darkness. Every person aboard the ships focused their thoughts on resistance, on fighting back, on protecting the innocent. The entity tried to adapt, to find a way through human mental defenses, but evolution had given humanity an advantage it couldn't overcome. Where other species had developed peaceful, ordered minds, humans carried the controlled chaos of predators and survivors. In the end, the entity retreated, its network of stolen consciousness collapsing as human neural patterns disrupted its control. Across 17 star systems, billions of beings suddenly woke up from their walking nightmare, their minds restored and free. The rescue and recovery operation took 3 weeks. Human ships worked alongside restored Federation fleets to evacuate the most damaged colonies and provide aid to traumatized populations. The Zephyrians, grateful beyond words, began growing special crystals that could protect against future mental intrusions. When Task Force Phoenix finally returned to Sol system, they found the quarantine beacons had been removed. Ambassador Kelvar himself was waiting at Luna Station with an official invitation for humanity to join the Galactic Federation as full members. Admiral Kane stood in the observation deck of the Prometheus, looking out at Earth through the viewport. The blue-green world that had forged humanity in fire and struggle had given them exactly what they needed to face the unknown. Admiral, Dr. Patel joined her at the viewport. The Federation is asking us to establish a permanent defense force. They want humans to be their first line of defense against threats like this. Kane nodded slowly. And what did you tell them? I told them we'd consider it, but only if they understand what they're asking for. We're not just soldiers or policemen. We're survivors. And survivors don't just protect themselves, they protect everyone they can. As the fleet settled into orbit around their homeworld, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Species that had once feared human violence now welcomed human protection. The Deathworlders had found their place in the cosmic community not as conquerors but as guardians. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders and terrors beyond imagination. But for the first time in their history, its inhabitants knew they had allies who would stand against the darkness, no matter what form it took. Humanity had answered the call for help and in doing so had finally come home.